Last weekend had two must-see matchups. UCLA upset South Carolina, which is their first regular season loss in over 1,000 days, and Notre Dame beat the brakes off of USC. Don't let the score fool you. The game is not as close as the score suggests. They were down by 19 with less than 2 minutes left. They went on a run as soon as Citron checked out the ball game to make the score look more respectable. But I will say, Juju is getting too much blame for the loss. Yes, she needs to take better shots, turn the ball over less, and get her teammates more involved, but the primary reason USC lost is because their point guard play has been terrible. No one is talking about this, but Talia Van Oelhoffen looks nothing like she did at Oregon State. This team is only going to be as good as TVO and Heckle are. If they don't get better, they will continue to look sloppy. A big part of why Juju and other players for that matter keep jacking up bad shots is because there isn't someone who can orchestrate the offense at a high level. For all the talk about Juju not having enough help last year, Kayla Padilla would make this team a lot better right now. From this game, it was clear Notre Dame was the better team. A lot of people thought I was overhyping Notre Dame when I said they were the third best team in the country before the season started. If anything, I undersold them. They are easily a top 2 team in the country and arguably the best. I was very worried about USC before the start of the season, but when they struggled against Ole Miss, I knew they were cooked. A much worse version of Notre Dame beat Ole Miss in the tournament, and you had people saying they weren't a good basketball team. But against USC, they looked like a Final Four team. Sure, you could make the argument KK Deans was injured last year, but USC didn't even have to go against Markeisha Davis. They probably would have lost if they did. Ole Miss ball pressure had USC shook, and that's Notre Dame's specialty. There's a lot of talk about how Kiki's draft stock is supposedly tanking. It didn't tank. It's where it should have been the whole time. Even before this game, it never made sense for her to be drafted over Olivia Miles. Outside of Kiki being from LA, it doesn't make sense for the Sparks to consider drafting her. The last thing they need is front court players, and Olivia Miles is one of the best point guards of this decade. The only point guards that have been better were literally National Player of the Year winners. Irfan is a slightly more athletic Aaliyah Edwards, which is great, but people were talking about her like she's the next Nafisa Collier or something. Now, there was one thing that surprised me a lot in this game, which was how bad Notre Dame beat USC. USC must have been misbehaving because Notre Dame pulled their belt out. I thought it was going to come down to the wire, but it didn't. USC was completely unmatched. At all levels, whether you want to talk about the coaching, the post, controlling the space of the game, and especially the point guard play. I never thought the Olivia Miles and Hidalgo won't work together narrative made any sense, but I don't think you will hear anyone saying that anymore. They don't just look great together, they look like an all-time backcourt. They combined for 44 points, 15 assists, and 8 steals against USC. They gave the Trojans a masterclass on guard play. They had more assists and steals than the entire USC team. At some point, we gotta have the conversation about Hidalgo being the best player in college basketball. Statistically, she has been better than Juju, but I gave Juju the edge because Hidalgo had a much better team around her. But now I'm not so sure. Paige is a lot more efficient and averages less turnovers, but she doesn't put the defensive pressure on people that Hidalgo does. And when they matched up, Hidalgo completely cooked UConn. She was pretty clearly the best player on the floor on either team that day. Regardless, this is the best Notre Dame has looked in several years. The scariest part is that Notre Dame can get way better. Maddie Westbeld and Liz Carlin haven't even come back yet. Players that can give you 15 to 20 points easy. Citron is in a massive shooting slump, and Notre Dame is still dominating. If she looks anything like she did the last 3 years, it's a wrap. I'm very excited to see what Notre Dame can do this year. As long as they can stay healthy, I like their chances over anyone. But I'll move on to the South Carolina and UCLA game. Those who watched the video I put out before the game know that I felt an upset was coming. The outcome did not surprise me, and most of the things that happened I expected, especially from the South Carolina side. There was no way South Carolina was going to beat UCLA with their post game. This is one of the rare moments where South Carolina is completely unmatched in the front court. It was going to be up to the guards. Tahina and Tessa did their thing. Pow Pow lit it up. She went to Wendy's on UCLA, 4 for 4 from 3, and she went 7 for 13 overall. You can't really ask for more from her. Tessa Johnson showed up just like she did against Michigan. She gave South Carolina 14 points on only 9 shots. The problem is, that was pretty much it. No one else even got in double figures. That's not going to fly against a high-powered offense like UCLA. They have so many scorers it's impossible to completely slow them down like other teams. For South Carolina to win, I said Malaysia Fulwiley would have to go off. She never got a chance as she only got 3 minutes of time. I would trust Dawn's judgment over any other coach, but I disagree with this decision. They had no chance of winning the game after this. Tahina and Tessa needed help, and Fulwiley is the only player that would have been able to provide it. Raven, Bree Hall, and Fagan are great at fulfilling a role, but those aren't players that have the ability to take over a game, especially against a tough opponent like UCLA. And when you have Lauren Betts anchoring the paint and Janiyah Barker breathing down your neck, there's not much 6'2" or 6'3" forwards can do. Like the Notre Dame game, I was not expecting this to be a blowout. I am guilty of this myself. But it looks like UCLA is the team that we all thought USC would be. A team that would have the ability to beat anyone in the country, including the Gamecocks. There never was a question about the talent on UCLA's roster. It was always a question of would Corey Close be able to utilize it in a way that would result in them being a title contender. They certainly look like one, and it starts with Lauren Betts. She completely dominated this game. You're probably thinking, how is only scoring 11 points dominating? Well, she had 14 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks. But that doesn't even account for the amount of wide open shots she created because she was getting constantly doubled, or the fact she completely took away the paint from South Carolina. Before the season, I would have thought Juju would have ran away with Big Ten Player of the Year. But in this very early season, Lauren Betts has undeniably been the better player. I don't know what it is about international freshmen cooking South Carolina, but it's crazy it's happened twice in only 6 games. First Silas Swords, and now Alina Arnasolo. She had 13 points on 60% shooting with 4 assists. But it felt like every time she hit a shot, it was when South Carolina was gaining some momentum. It's funny watching her play because she's literally what USC needs right now. A composed point guard who can knock down shots. When you look at the teams that are doing well, they have at least 2 really good point guards. It's a lot harder to game plan against 2 floor generals compared to 1. Whoever scouted her needs a big raise. Now I'll admit, I was not expecting that performance from London Jones. I thought she would be a liability this game because she wouldn't be able to defend the taller South Carolina guards. Tessa and Tahina got busy, but London scored 21 points while going 5 for 5 from 2. She was ice cold from 3 before this game, but she showed up when they needed her most. That's exactly what you want from a player. The craziest part about UCLA winning in the fashion that they did is they can be better. How often is Tamea Gardner going to be 1 from 5 from 3? But that's exactly what makes them so dangerous. If one shooter is off, there's another on the bench that can step in and knock them down. Kiki Rice showed some really good flashes. She didn't have a crazy box score, but just from an eye test, you can tell she's put in some serious work in the offseason. She looks faster, her handle is a lot tighter, and she's improved her shot creation ability. I think she's going to be posed for a very special season, and UCLA in general, to be honest. I don't remember a time they ever looked this good, because even in the games they won last year, there was a bunch of red flags. But this looks different. I am curious to see what you all think about these 4 teams that played last weekend. Should USC and South Carolina be concerned? Are you buying the Notre Dame or UCLA hype? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later. That's it for this video. I hope everyone has a great holiday weekend,